were last year too. I really liked them. If not for Mr. Locke, I think they could have been a little better. But what are your thoughts on this Kyle Fuller acquisition for the Broncos?
I love it. Kyle Fuller had his best seasons with Vic Fangio, and I still think Vic Fangio is one of the best, if not the best, defensive coaches in the NFL. I think Kyle Fuller has always been like a top 10 to 12 corner in the NFL. It's just never talked about. Good in coverage, good in man, good in zone, really, really good tackler, got a nose for the football. He finds ways to take away the football, whether it's forcing fumbles, getting interceptions. He's just a really, really solid player. I think the Denver Broncos have been looking for a corner like Kyle Fuller. AJ Bouye didn't necessarily work out for them. And so I think that Kyle Fuller is a great fit for their defense. He also is one of the most durable cornerbacks in the NFL. He started 16 games. I think he started every game of his career. So because of that, he's just a stud. I love this move. I also think the money isn't too bad. 1 year is $9 million, I think, is perfect for a player of his caliber. I think the value is right on. I love the move for the Denver Broncos, and I'm really interested to see how they turn out, because with Cortland Sutton coming back and you have a good offensive line and you have Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and Noah Fant, you have a potentially exciting offense. And then with Vic Fangio, and then now they got Justin Simmons back. They have Kyle Fuller now. You bring back Von Miller. Bradley Chubb is one more year removed from his ACL. They're shaping up to be a pretty stacked roster on both sides of the ball. And the big question they have is with Drew Lock, which we'll definitely talk about him on another day.
Yeah, so this defense coming in to the start of free agency, right? The really only good corner, starting caliber corner, is Ojemudia, who I'm kind of a fan of him. I've been low-key watching some Broncos a little bit, just like checking him out, and I like Ojemudia. He's fine, and he's going to be their third corner now. They signed Ronald Darby, who started for the football team last year. Then they bring in Fuller, and if you remember this, Vic, I know you do, 2018, Fuller's best year was with Vic Fangio's DC. This defense was going to plan or looked like they needed to draft a corner like with their 9th pick. They don't have to do that anymore. They can go best player available. They can go, if they want to go O-line, they can do that. If they want to go, maybe there's a linebacker they like, or beef up the D-line. They have tons of options. Maybe there's a quarterback they're looking for, unless they believe in Drew Lock. We don't know. But whoever it is at quarterback that they have, he will be tall and he will have a strong arm, just like John Elway loves.
I think George Payton will be making the pick this year.
But someone took over for him, unfortunately. But yeah, no, back to their defense. Dude, I think their defense is going to be legit this year. Like, I really, really do. They've pretty much upgraded, or the players have improved at every position. Vic Fangio's got another year of this system. How good do you think their defense can be?
I think if you isolate their secondary by itself, I think it can be a top 5 secondary in the NFL. When you say Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, who they brought back, and he's a good really safety for them. Yeah, and then you have Kyle Fuller, Ojemudia, and Ronald Darby. I think it can be a top 5 secondary in the NFL, especially with Vic Fangio scheming it up, because he has a really good defensive scheme. So that's fantastic. Then you look at their pass rush. I mean, Von Miller is a Hall of Famer, and I still think he's got something left in the tank.
You just don't doubt the man.
Right. So you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, which is still a good pass rushing duo. And from that standpoint, I just think that the Denver Broncos are going to be right there in terms of their defense. Like, Vic Fangio is a defensive mastermind. I don't think people have given him enough credit throughout his career for how good he's been with defense. I mean, he was the mastermind behind the Niners defense between 2011 to 2014. He then took the Chicago Bears, and he made Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky go to the playoffs with one of the defenses that was the most fortuitous in terms of forcing turnovers maybe in NFL history. They were just forcing like 3 turnovers a game. They were unbelievable. And so because of that, I just think that the Denver Broncos are going to have a really good defense. They have a good offensive line. They have receiving weapons that you can be excited about. I mean, again, I don't want to keep turning this into a Drew Lock conversation, because the Denver Broncos just, I think, had a silently very good free agency and have silently put together a roster that could be very, very good next year. But it's really going to come down to him.
Dude, another guy, D lineman Shelby Harris. I don't know. This dude just like pops off the screen for me. I was really watching them to like see Jarrell Casey because I wanted the Packers to sign him. And this Shelby Harris dude on their D line's actually a beast. They signed him for a couple more years. So, I mean, when you just look at their roster turnover, like the additions they've gotten, they're getting Fuller, Darby. They have Simmons. They have Jackson. They're getting Von Miller back. Bradley Chubb is another year in. This defense could be special. And I did mention it too, but linebacker. So they have this guy named Jewell and then Alexander Johnson.
AJ Johnson. Yeah. Alexander Johnson.
They hit pretty hard, but they're not the best. If they got like a coverage guy in there, or maybe they did want to go the Micah Parsons route because they blitz their linebackers a decent amount, it would be interesting. That's all I'll say. It would be interesting.
Yeah, and again, they're a team like Brian Pollock brought up in the comments section. Yeah. They're a team that's been rumored to be in the Watson situation. Mm-hmm. Now, there's more variables to the Watson situation now, but you look at their team, and by getting Kyle Fuller, which was, I think, they're maybe the only real question mark on their team besides maybe inside linebacker, mm-hmm. which I still think Fangio's scheme can adjust to not having the best inside linebackers. They're right there now where they could just trade for Deshaun Watson. They're Super Bowl bound, or they're right there where they could move up and go get a quarterback. Like the Broncos just opened up so many possibilities because they don't have this clear defined need on their team where if they don't draft this position, they would be screwed because they don't have depth or starting caliber players there.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, we'll talk about the Drew Lock thing in the future. And another thing too is, like people have mentioned, like this division is loaded. Drew Lock, if they draft a quarterback, if let's say in a perfect world they got like Deshaun Watson, he wouldn't even be the best quarterback in the division. If they drafted a guy like top 3, he would probably be the 3rd best quarterback in the division.
If they got Watson, this would be the greatest quarterback division of all time.
Probably.
There's already 3 top 15 quarterbacks in their division with Carr, Herbert, and obviously Mahomes. And so even they're kind of in the same position that the Niners are, but it's exacerbated by a little bit more because they don't have the same level of roster, and Locke is definitely not as good as Jimmy G, though he's more gifted. They're in the same situation where like they could get an average quarterback, but their average quarterback would still be the 4th best quarterback in their division because all the other 3 guys are above average.
Crazy. It is crazy.